Teresa, how's it going?
It's going wonderful. How about you?
Good, good.
Yep.
You have this idea of teaching parents how to make sure they teach their kids kindness.
hmm
And I was kind of intrigued me because, kindness is something that is not inherent, right? People don't just they're not automatically born with it.
Right.
So, what was the point in your life that made you say, "Hey, you know what? Maybe this needs to be taught a little bit more."
It was back in 2018, and there was a school shooting down in Parkland, Florida. No,
Mhm.
I didn't know anybody there, but God tapped me on the shoulder and
Uh-huh.
said, "We can do better, and I need you to get out there and spread this word."
Right.
And that's how it started.
Okay. Especially now with everything going on, a little bit of kindness doesn't hurt, There's this disconnect between people, and I blame social media for a lot of woes. And I think that it's
hmm
definitely one of the main culprits, but because social media makes people look dispensable,
Yes.
and it's like their life is not as important as yours because you just see it on a screen. Do you think that's something that there's something
Yeah,
to that?
I definitely think there's something to that. Plus, because you're not truly face to face in person with somebody, you feel you can say whatever you darn well please. And
Hmm.
it goes out there and it doesn't affect anybody. And that is so not true.
Right.
And one of the things that I also tell parents, be the example. So what are you posting on social media? And
Hmm.
some people give me this look, and because your kids, whether you think they are or not, are reading your social media.
Yeah.
And so what you say, well, mom and dad are posting this, so I can post that. So what are you posting? Because that's what your kids are going to post.
Because children are definitely a product of their environment. This is going to sound maybe a little controversial, maybe or maybe not. I don't know, but I have this philosophy that I think people are worthy of your kindness to like strangers are worthy of your kindness to a level like the
hmm
cashier at the grocery store. You give them a polite smile and a nod, that kind of thing. But I really think that your family deserves the bulk of it. Like your spouse, your kids, your parents, all that. But what do you think that we can do to spread this a little bit more and just to kind of get people to be a little bit nicer?
Well, yeah, you have to start at home. It
Hmm.
does. Just like you said, it does start at home. And what are you sending your kids out the door with?
Hmm.
And I strongly recommend putting sticky notes on their mirror. You're awesome. You rock.
Hmm.
You've got the big math test or science test they've been studying for. Stick a note in that backpack and just say, you've got this.
Yeah.
For your partner, put a note next to the coffee mug, next to the coffee machine. I
Uh-huh.
appreciate you. Send
Uh-huh.
everyone in your life under your roof out the door with a kind, positive note, and that will carry through.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's one thing, Phil, that people don't understand is that there is scientific backing. There's studies to back up
Uh-huh.
that if you and I share an act of kindness, our serotonin levels go up, our happy
Uh-huh.
hormones go up.
Yeah.
But then anyone that's watching it, observing that act of kindness, their serotonin levels also go up. So you've got a room full of happy people from one little act of kindness.
Uh-huh.
And now I have just recently done some additional research. Now let's take that a step further.
Okay.
Say 5 people, and those 5 people saw this and said, okay, then they go out and perform 5 acts of kindness.
Uh-huh.
Well, then, so you're up to 25 people. Those 25 people go and spread that act of kindness. So it
Uh-huh.
just keeps going. The ripple effect is real, and there's studies to back it up. So it's not just all fluffy, nice stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. It's people have bad days, they have bad
Oh
weeks and
yeah.
whatever. But I think I've said it before on the show. I think people are multifaceted, right? They're not
Oh yeah.
just 3 dimensional, 4 dimensional. I would say it's incalculable how many layers people really have. I think. Say they're having a bad day at work, you have to think about their home life, think about what they're going through. Are they going through a divorce? Are they going through a financial crisis? Are they going through a sick child, or they have a kid with special needs at home or something like that. So you have to factor all that in to people because it's not just, he didn't clean up after himself in the break room. You know what I mean?
Right.
There really could be more to it than that. So I think giving people a little bit of grace, just a little bit of
Yeah.
understanding,
Grace.
yeah,
Yeah.
it could move mountains at times, I think.
Well, it can. And
Mhm.
I've got a great example. Early on in my journey in kindness, I was having lunch with a friend,
Uh-huh.
and the server comes over and says, "What do you want?" And we're
Oof.
like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah, we've got a couple questions about the menu." She goes, "I don't know. I was told to come over and take your order. What do you want? And we're looking at each other going, but we ordered, our food came, it was fine, but she never came and refilled a coffee, never refilled a water. And at the end of the meal, she slams the bill on the table and runs. And we're like, we literally sat back and said, okay, how are we going to handle this? Right. And there was part of me that said, yeah, call the manager, because that was the worst service I have ever had. And we did, I mean, that was we were well within our rights to do that.
Absolutely.
Then I said, let's try something. Because this was early on, so I had no idea what would happen. Right. We went ahead and gave her a normal tip. And on her receipt, I put a smiley face and wrote, you were designed to shine.
Aw.
Gathered ourselves up, headed for the door. She chases us down. To this day, it just shocked me. And she had tears. And she just said, thank you. I needed to hear that today.
Right.
She went back to work. We got in the car and sat there going, what the heck just happened? And I said, well, who knew? But that was early on. So I I always keep that example in the back of my mind when I do come across a rude person, because I saw that a change was made. Didn't know that was going to happen, but I saw a huge change. And so how we respond to people is the whole key, in my opinion, for kindness.
100%. Like, so I'm kind of sometimes I'm the opposite with that. Like, I was during the holidays, I was at Aldi. I was picking up some stuff for Thanksgiving. You know how Aldi works. They punch cashier. So a guy got in the wrong line, and I was like, dude, you got to go to the back, because and he's like, oh, okay, well, you can go over there. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when they get caught in making a mistake, sometimes they feel the need to, I don't want to say boss somebody around, but maybe correct somebody else, because that way they feel better. And I don't like strangers telling me what to do, because it's just, it's something that's, I'm working on it. I'm 46. I don't know if I'll ever get past it, but there's a point to where it's like, and I looked at the guy and I said, don't ever tell me what to do. You're the one that made the mistake, not me. And of course, as soon as I got out of Aldi, I felt terrible for it, because, maybe the guy was having a bad day, but it was like, I wasn't having the best day either. So I think the point of all that, what I'm trying to say is, your mood, so you were able to reach that lady, even though she was in a bad mood, and your reaction to her being nasty was an act of kindness. And that takes a special person to do that, because the moment, like when someone does that with me, I'm automatically, my hackles get raised. And so how do you think that we can kind of avoid that scenario?
It takes practice. Just like anything else, it takes practice. In that scenario, I had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, she could have just said, forget you and go on. But it does. It just takes practice. And that's where you're building your foundation, making kindness as natural as breathing. So it is the sit down, do the sticky notes, send your people out the door, then also take time for yourself to fill your own kindness tank up to help those moods. And then that could be, sitting with a cup of coffee, glass of tea in the morning, prayer. It could be at the end of the night when everything's quiet, get that glass of wine, do the hot bubble bath, whatever works for you. Best suggestion I think I've ever heard. I had a mom, very busy mom, comes home from work and puts her hand up to the kids and says 15 minutes. Yeah. She goes into her bedroom, shuts the door, takes the work persona off, gives herself some time to breathe. And 15 minutes later, she comes out, mom hat on, let's go. And she said that 15 minutes is mood adjustment time, as she calls it. But it gives her that time, all this bad stuff happened to work. She can put it aside, take it off, put it aside, so that she can be present for her kids.
Yeah, I think as parents in general, I don't think they take enough time for themselves. And I think that's the reason why a lot of marriages fail.
Yeah, it's a very, you have to fill your couple kindness tank, I guess we could call it that. And that is with the date nights, or it's with everybody's gone to bed. Let's take some time so how was your day? What's going on in your life? Those kind of, because communication is huge in any relationship. So taking that time, I know a couple who does it, they go jogging in the morning together before the kids are out. And they have these wonderful conversations about life. And sometimes they make a rule, we're not going to talk about the kids. Let's just talk about you and me. Those kind of things.
Yeah. You have to have that togetherness. Like you said before, kids will emulate what they see. And if they see parents that are cold and distant, they're going to be cold and distant. Maybe being a parent is a great responsibility. And here's why. I've said it before. You have this precious little baby that knows nothing. It can breathe because its body does it automatically. Everything else needs to be done for the child. So that is a great responsibility to not mess up that kid. And it's got to be hard to not take that kid and just mess it up with all, because it's like you don't want to feed your insecurities and anxieties onto the child. But
just taking time to listen to other people. I have a little dog. She's 10 pounds. Everybody loves her. I walk on a bike trail every day and came across a woman and she said, "Can I pet your dog?" And I'm like, "Sure, whatever." Well, there's steps there. She sits down and I'm like, "Oh gosh, this isn't a just pet and go." And of course my dog accommodates, climbs up in her lap, and the woman starts petting the dog. And then she starts talking. I lost my husband 6 months ago.
No, yeah.
And then I lost my dog 3 weeks ago. It was heart-wrenching. I'm surprised I wasn't bawling. So she's crying and she just talked, kept petting the dog, kept speaking. And then finally she let out a big sigh, stood up, wiped her tears, and just said, "Thank you. I feel so much better." And she went on, never seen her again. I went on down the trail and we went our way. But I said, that didn't cost me anything, a little time. So and I think that's one thing, put the phones down, put your flipping phone down and look up and look around you. Because just making eye contact with somebody, again, while I'm walking on that bike trail, I say hi to basically everybody. And some people have got the headphones on. Okay. So they don't want to be bothered, or there's joggers are in their zone and they can't miss that. They're going in their rhythm and they don't want to break the rhythm. I get that. But other people I've seen look up at me shocked that I said good morning. And I thought, that's so sad.
Yeah.
And I think it's so simple to just smile and say good morning to somebody. And we've lost that connection.
Yeah, and yet again, I think we can circle back to the social media aspect of that. And it goes, I remember, so I'm a gamer, right? So I play a lot of video games, and I was on Xbox Live in 2007, so it was a nuclear wasteland of personalities. It was terrible. I'm to circle back to what you were saying is people talk all this stuff. They would say things to somebody online that they wouldn't say in front of them because it's worthy of a suplex. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a good way to, because there's no consequences for saying it. So I'm not saying that social media is gonna be the downfall of society, but it's definitely the downfall of connectivity. Is that I guess that's
it makes perfect. No, it is. Yeah. It's true because we don't talk to each other in person anymore.
No.
And that's going to be a huge problem for us as we go into the future. We need to regain that connectivity, as you said.
Yeah. Unless there's an EMP that wipes it out, I don't think it's ever going to go away, because people are looking for that next dopamine, serotonin hit. And that's all they care about. They don't want to learn anything. They just want to be entertained for a microsecond. So do you think there's a way that we can, other than just putting the phones down, especially with children, limiting their screen time is one way to do it. I don't know if it still exists, but I remember they had this pepper grinder, right? And when she twisted it, it shut off the Wi-Fi. Oh, because she wanted to. Because dinner time is when you're supposed to talk to your children, right? To find out about their day, see where they're at, and all that. So everybody was on their phone or whatever, and she found this thing, turned it on, and they were like, of course, the first couple of times it was like chimps at the zoo going nuts. I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan for a second. Like what he does is if his kids they want screen time, they have to do an hour on the treadmill. I think having that bartering system works. How do you feel about that?
No, I think that's whatever works is kind of my mindset. I know different parents have, they want them to clean their rooms, do the dishes, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Then you can have your screen time.
Yeah.
Did you get, you've got that is your project for school done? No, not until you do not get screen time until this is done, until that is done. And I don't see a problem with that at all.
Right.
And I think another way to continue the connectivity with your kids is at that dinner table or when you're driving them to all those different activities that they have these days. Ask them open-ended questions. What was the best thing that happened to you today? What was the worst thing that happened to you today? What made you laugh today? And it's open-ended. It gets discussions going. It actually helps parents, if they're listening, There might be a little red flag that pops up that you need to talk about that further, explore it further, those kind of things.
Mhm.
Then my bonus question is always, what were the good choices that you made today?
Yeah.
And that helps them with their critical thinking skills. Did I do this? No, well, I made this choice, but I'm not sure if it was the best choice.
Mhm.
Again, it's just helping guide your children, and it gets you involved in your children and you know what's going on.
Correct. And I think it stems from both parents having to work, I
Yeah.
think. Because we live in a society now where because everything is so expensive and it's not been the last like 10 years, been the last like 30 years. I think because when somebody goes to work, like we'll use a mom for an example. She
Mm-hmm.
has to go to work, she comes home, and then there's all this other stuff that needs to be done, plus homework, plus the kids. It's like it's so exhausting. So all you want to do is just shut down and not do anything. But unfortunately, you have the responsibility of being a parent. You don't get to do that. What are some techniques that a parent? I mean, obviously the open-ended questions and things like that. But like, I mean, let's say they have a child that's a little bit more reserved and they're just not forthcoming with information. Like, is there like any little techniques that they can get to maybe get them to talk?
Well, that's the beauty of the questions, is it ends up with
Mhm.
what made you laugh, because that kind of takes them off guard. It takes them off guard a little bit, and it helps. That's something fun. They don't have to open up, feel like they're opening up and giving all their secrets away. So that's where that question comes in. That helps. That helps there.
Yeah, that makes more sense, especially with like kids that are in that adolescent stage. I'd say like
Hmm.
12 to 15. They want to have their secrets. They don't want their privacy invaded. So that makes more sense. You don't want to be like, "What are you doing all the time?"
Right.
But he wasn't allowed to have people over. It was just chores, homework, and all this other stuff. So there was this oppressive thing.
Hmm.
But so what I'm saying is you can't oppress your children too much. I guess oppress isn't the word. You can't get into their business too much, but I just don't know how parents do it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm probably off
It's not
topic too
easy.
much. No, it's
It's the
definitely no.
toughest job out there. And like you said, there's no manual.
Mhm.
And, just like trying to have those, like, have fun, play with your kids.
Mhm.
There's there, this is a novel idea. Are you shooting hoops with the
Mhm.
kids? And you're saying, yes, get outside, get off the screen, but are you going out with them? Are you
Right.
riding bikes with them? Are you doing those kind of things? Because
Mhm.
that's where it lightens everything up. Everybody's getting exercise.
Mhm.
They're off the
Yeah.
screen, and you could have, playing the basketball hoops things I used to do with my own son. This is
Mhm.
way before the kindness thing came in. And
Mhm.
we would shoot a hoop, but I'd ask a question. Then he'd
Right.
shoot a hoop and answer the question. And instead of playing horse or pig or whatever the things are, that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
So, but,
I
it was fun.
Yeah, I think but I think it goes back to what you said earlier. It all breaks down to communication. School shooting that you
Hmm.
alluded to earlier,
Uh-huh.
if the parents would have maybe taught, I don't want to blame the parents, but it's also, you have to think about it. If they were maybe implementing some of the things that you're saying, like talking and finding out where their kid is at, they could have found out what the problem was and maybe avoided it.
That would definitely help. Um, it would help alleviate it. Sometimes I feel for some of the parents because they're so ingrained in their own issues. I know
Mhm.
I've seen a school shooting where the couple were going through a divorce and it was just ugly, and the kid kind of got shoved to the side
Mhm.
because the parents were overwhelmed with their own stuff.
Mhm.
I know I did have a school here that does really well with teaching kindness and living that throughout the school from the principal on down,
Mhm.
and they instill it in their children, and the parents have really stepped up and embraced it as well. And there was a kid A was talking to kid B. Well, kid B starts talking about wanting to come in and blow the school up,
Oh,
or
Jesus.
shoot this person and that person.
Mhm.
Well, he had because of what's been taught in the school and reinforced at home, kid A went home and said, "Hey, Dad, I got something. Can I talk to you?" Tells the story. Dad gets on the phone with the principal immediately, gets to the parents of kid B, and they get the kid help. They did not realize the parents were doing things to
Mhm.
help the kid, but just didn't realize, and it's by no fault of their own, they didn't realize how it was escalating in their child's mind.
Right.
So they worked with the school and they got the kid the help he needed,
Mhm.
and crisis averted kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that was just because there was lot of open communication between everybody involved, the
Mhm.
parents, the school, the kid, and that's what has to happen.
Mhm.
And yet when parents are going through stuff, it's hard. I went through a divorce and it was hard
Mhm.
to try to keep myself balanced and then remember I got to balance my kid because this is huge. It's
Mhm.
not easy. So parents need to know if they're at rocky road, it's no shame in calling and getting help.
No,
And
not
I
at all.
think that there's no stigma to that. And I think some people are afraid to get help because, I
Well,
don't want people to think I'm crazy or whatever. I said, there's no shame in it.
yeah, exactly. And I've had therapists on this show before, and I'll tell you that is one thing that really makes me absolutely aggravated is that somebody feels that they are going to be stigmatized for seeking help. I That is one of my hugest arguments is why would anybody say anything negative about someone trying to fix what's going on in the head in this country? Our mental health system is
Right.
abysmal. Like I'm not a very political person,
Mm.
but I think when they closed asylums, mental
Yeah.
institutions, I think this is one of the things that really
Agree with
hurt
you.
because now you have these people that have nowhere to go, they have nowhere to get help. But on the other side of that coin is you have them where they're taking advantage of these people, experimenting on them and doing this other stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's a lose-lose because unfortunately in this country we have a thing called greed, you know. But that's a whole different show that you and I can have later because of my biological father being abusive mentally, it made it to where I didn't know how to defend myself verbally or physically. He never showed me how to defend myself in one way or the other. And so, but now as an adult, what the one thing I'll correct immediately is somebody being a bully. I think
Hmm.
if
Yeah.
people saw that and they stepped up more and they said, don't do that, or they, I'm not saying you have to go slap the person doing the bullying or anything like that. And again, you have to think about what that bully is going through. So
Yeah.
it's this domino effect. Somebody was talking to me about it. A UFC fighter. His name was George St. Pierre. And this guy, I don't know if you follow any of that stuff or not. Probably not. He had been the welterweight champion of the UFC for a long time. He was in his car, and his bully was in the street asking for money. And he took that
Wow.
moment instead of telling the guy, "Ha ha," he says, "What can I do for you? Do you need money? Can I get you a
Mhm.
job? Can I do this?" That is the ultimate act of saying, "I forgive you. I want to help you." And I think if we have more of that in this world, I think it would be better. But the problem is because of news and all that, we are just surrounded by negativity. Like right now, everything is going on with Iran. It's
Yeah.
scary, So basically,
And
you just got to try to find cat videos to watch.
yeah, you do. Or have a cat who's not
Exactly.
hopping up. He won't hop up now when I need him to, but that's
Uh-huh.
okay. It's so sad because this past Saturday here in
Uh-huh.
Cincinnati, there was a shooting at a local nightclub.
Uh-huh.
And of I did because I don't jump up on Sunday morning. I was getting ready for church. I get to church. We need to pray for these people. Well, I said,
Uh-huh.
what happened?
Yeah.
And it has come out, and these are young adults.
Uh-huh.
And this is where kindness comes in. And they said, no, it was all about a disagreement. It all started with a disagreement, and someone had slipped the gun through the metal detectors and everything the club had.
Yeah.
But what is so horrible that you disagree about that you have to shoot somebody over it?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
and
still trying to wrap my head around that one.
I can't, and listen, I'm a big 2A guy. I used to be a firearms instructor. What I would tell my students, the first thing I said that you use is this, you use your brain. And then the
Mhm.
second one is your mouth. And then if they don't leave you alone, the third is your fist. And the absolute last thing where you're about to die is your
Yeah.
weapon.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, and this idea of you made me mad, get a gun and shoot you is absolutely ridiculous.
I,
I try to be a peacekeeper. Like if I've made somebody
right.
mad, or like I feel that I've wronged somebody, I try to go to them and apologize. Say, man, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. And that goes back to, I go back to the restaurant
Mhm.
scenario. What was more important for us to be right or for us to be kind?
Right.
And we kind of did it maybe as an experiment when I think back. But it made all the difference.
If you don't experiment, you don't know. You know what I
Right.
mean? You could have went to her manager and you could have got her in trouble, and that would have made it worse. Who knows? It may have been her
Yeah.
last strike, and she may have gotten fired, and that would have been worse. But what you did was the best thing you could have done because
Hmm.
just some people, like we said before, need a little bit of grace, need a little bit of understanding, and a whole lot of kindness. Really.
Right. Right.
So when people come on my show, I ask them two questions.
Okay.
Number one is, what are two core beliefs that make you who you are?
Obviously, I believe in the power of kindness, and that has just driven into a lifestyle. And that basically is who I am now. It took a while. I've
Mhm.
made a lot of changes in my life
Yeah.
since then. But I mean, I can't think of two, but I can think of, because it's just changed my life so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. That's perfect. I mean, listen, that's just, I always ask too, because, I'm just weird.
Well,
This is the other question is you're about to shove off the mortal coil, go to the next life. What do you want to be remembered for?
yeah, just the legacy of kindness, that I was
Mhm.
able to go in and reach people, and that they made a change
Yeah.
that affected their
Mhm.
lives. And again, those 5 people, 25 people, etc.
Yeah.
And that I was able to truly enforce that ripple effect and send that wave of kindness across this country.
Was there something in your life that made you want to just be kind to people? Was there a catalyst that you said, "Hey, you know what? This is my mantle. This is what I'm going to pick up, and this is going to be the hill I'm going to die on." Yeah.
No, it goes back to my faith, Bill.
Yeah.
Just the faith in that God was saying, "Yeah, you can do this. I want you to do this, and here are the words. Go."
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, listen, it's a good goal to have, and I think if more people practiced it, myself included.
I was just going to say, I said, I'm not perfect. I have got
Mhm.
my moments too.
Oh, of course.
Just since 2018, I've come a long way, because I would have probably called the manager at one point in time. I probably wouldn't have been as patient with this woman. You're sitting there. I just wanted to do the pet and keep going. Why am I,
Yeah.
why are you sitting here? That
Right.
kind of thing. I wouldn't have said hi to everybody. That's the
Yeah.
easiest way to be kind to
Mhm.
people, is just to smile and say hi.
That smile could be the determining factor if they have a good day or a bad day. I'm walking the halls in the hospital, like coming into work. I say hi to everybody, whether it's the person behind the front desk or the PVS person. It takes nothing. It's literally, hi, how you doing? It's literally half a second out of your day to say hi to somebody,
Yeah,
and
and
just,
that includes the invisible people,
mhm.
the
Yeah.
delivery people,
Hmm.
your construction workers, which you're mad because you're delayed getting through, but say hi to them.
Yeah.
They're only doing their job, and it would make your roads better. I just think of all those people, your cafeteria workers in the schools, your custodians in any
Hmm.
building. They're keeping that building clean for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a few minutes to say hi.
Yeah. And that's another thing we could talk about real quick is the stigma of those kinds of jobs. Like
Yeah.
why do we feel that someone being a custodian or an EVS worker, where does that ego in us come from that we think that job is less than? I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, yet again, there might be a part two to this episode, but
We could do that. No, because it's funny you say that, because there's another podcaster who was a server in
uh-huh.
her life, and she brings these stories, and how people, well, you're just the help. That
Yeah.
just, it sets my teeth on edge whenever
Yeah.
she says it. I know it's just a skit, but it really happened to somebody that she knows. And I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, just makes
Yeah.
me go crazy.
So to further your point about just talking to the people, I had a friend of mine. He was a scrub tech for a very long time. His nurse was introducing him to the patient, and so he's one of our little helpers and all that. So, anyways, that irritates me when somebody says that because my job is so much more than that. But him being the person that he is, at the end of the case, pulled her aside and said, "Listen, don't you ever talk to me like that again, or say that to a patient about me again, because it's dismissive and disrespectful." And I think
Mhm.
that maybe sometimes people need a little course correction, but you do it in a gentle way. But he was a brash individual to begin with. Want to say, thanks for coming on the show. I think what you're doing is it's good work, and just keep doing it. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of kindness. But where can people find you if they want to talk to you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've
Hmm.
enjoyed our conversation. They can find me at journeyandkindness.com
Hmm.
and hit that contact, and I will respond to every question you guys have. More
Hmm.
than happy to do that. And I would like to offer your listeners 75 acts of kindness where you don't know where to start. This list starts with that smile and hello I talked about, all the way to planting a tree to benefit saving the planet.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. And for me, you can find the show on Spotify and YouTube, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, those. So thanks everybody for listening.